that's the crackle over the walkie. We're shut down. I mean, just imagine it. Your whole crew just stops. All that gear packed up. It's probably the single worst thing a producer can hear, right? And you know what? It almost always starts with a choice that was made weeks before. And here's the thing you gotta understand. So many people think permits are just, paperwork, annoying red tape. But they're not. They are literally the legal and financial shield for your entire production. All right, so let's really dive into this. Because honestly, knowing how to handle film permits, that's one of the biggest things that separates an amateur shoot from a truly professional one. This is all about protecting everything you're working so hard to build. We've all heard it, right? Maybe you've even been tempted. Let's just steal the shot. It sounds so, fast, a little rebellious. And hey, it's cheap. But trust me, the potential cost is way, way higher than any permit fee you'd ever pay. And this really gets to the core of the problem, It's this huge misconception. Most people think permits are just a hassle, red tape, something to avoid. But the actual reality, for a professional, they're your best friend. They're an asset. It's you telling the world, hey, we're doing this safely, and we respect the community we're in. So what's the big deal? Well, a permit creates a legal paper trail, and that's absolutely crucial. It protects you, the producer, from getting hit with personal liability. It protects the property owner whose location you're borrowing. And yeah, it protects the city, your crew, and even the public just by making sure all those safety rules are actually being followed. Look, it all boils down to this. No permit equals no protection. Simple as that. The moment you decide to film without one, you personally are taking on all the financial risk, every single bit of it. If something goes wrong, well, there's nobody else to call. Okay, so how do we get this protection? It really comes down to having the right toolkit. So let's break it down. Let's talk about the essential documents, the permits, the insurance, that you absolutely have to have locked in before you even think about calling action. Okay, so here's a look at the big picture. Now, obviously, every single shoot is going to be different, but these 5 categories, they cover the vast majority of what you'll ever need to do. We're going to focus on the ones that are most critical. First up, the big one, the city or county film permit. This is your baseline, your fundamental legal permission slip to work in public spaces, sidewalks, streets, the whole shebang. This is the document that lets the film office coordinate with the police, sort out parking for your trucks, and just give the neighborhood a heads up about what's going on. Now this is something you really need to let sink in. If you're using anything like an open flame, smoke effects, even fake gunfire, you need a fire permit. And there is absolutely zero wiggle room on this one. Why? Because the fire marshal's job isn't to help your movie. It's to prevent a catastrophe. They don't care about your budget or your call sheet. Thinking about shooting in a gorgeous park or maybe on a beach? Awesome. But just remember, that's public land, which means public rules. These spots are usually managed by Parks and Rec departments, and they tend to have much, much stricter rules about how many people you can have, what gear you can bring, and when you can work. They're trying to protect those spaces for everyone, right? Okay, here's a crucial point. You can't get any of these permits without the other half of the equation, insurance. They go hand in hand. They're totally linked. Seriously, a film office won't even glance at your permit application if you don't have proof of the right insurance. So what are they looking for? Well, first, you need general liability insurance that covers things like injuries and property damage. Second, you need to show them the proof, which is called a certificate of insurance, or COI. Third, you'll have to list the city or the location owner as an additional insured on that policy. And finally, trust me, you absolutely want coverage for all that expensive gear you're renting. And I really can't stress this enough. That COI, your certificate of insurance, it has to be perfect. I'm talking one wrong date, an incorrect coverage amount, even a single misspelled name on that additional insured line, and boom, your application is rejected instantly. The details here are everything. All right, so this brings us to where things so often go wrong. Most productions don't get shut down because the producer is a bad person. It's almost always because of preventable mistakes, simple errors that all come down to bad preparation. And here is probably the number one mistake people make: underestimating time. Just look at this. A standard, simple permit, you need to give yourself at least 2 weeks, 10 to 14 days. If you're doing anything more complex, we're talking stunts, night shoots, filming in a park, You better be applying a month out, maybe even more. This is not a last-minute kind of thing. Because yeah, sure, some offices might offer a rush permit, but you can bet that's going to cost you a lot. So late planning just becomes expensive planning. Trying to save a few days at the last minute will cost you a ton of money, and that's if they can even do it for you. So, what are the big tripwires that get people shut down? Well, thinking that just because it's private property you don't need a permit, wrong. If you're impacting the public, you do. Forgetting to get the fire department's approval, submitting that bad COI we talked about, missing those lead times, or just, making a ton of noise after 10 p.m. See the pattern here? It all comes back to preparation.
Okay, let's kind of shift gears for a second as we wrap up, because this isn't just about avoiding a disaster. Doing all this stuff the right way, it's fundamentally about building your career. It's about your professional credibility.
Just take a look at this simple little scenario. Let's say you're doing a night shoot in a residential area. You've got a generator running, and you're simulating some gunfire. Seems pretty straightforward, right? Well, think again. You're going to need a city film permit for being on the street, a noise permit because it's late, and a fire permit for those special effects. You miss just one of those, and your entire shoot day just collapses. So really, the biggest takeaway here is this. You have to change your mindset. If you're looking at permits and insurance as just a burden, you're looking at it all wrong. Proper planning isn't a brake pedal slowing you down. It's the opposite. It's the entire system that protects your project, your crew, and your investment from completely falling apart. And in the long run, this is what it's really all about. When you handle all the legal stuff correctly, you're showing respect. Respect for the locations, for the communities you're working in, and that builds you a reputation. A reputation for being credible, for being a pro, and that is what gets you invited back. It's what gets you hired again and again. So next time you're planning a shoot, I want you to ask yourself this one simple question. Is your project built on a solid foundation, a real legally sound permit? Or is it all just built on a prayer, just hoping for the best? Ultimately, the choice is yours.